Greetings, everyone, and good evening. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, and welcome to our Thursday live stream. The purpose of this live stream is to answer questions that are sent to hamradioanswers@gmail.com or via the form that you can fill out at KE0OG.net/ask-Dave. You can do it either way. So I hope it's working for people here, and we should be live right now. I had a little bit of a glitch when my OBS software, which is what I use for the live stream, seemed to lose contact with YouTube. I checked the internet connection during that time, and the internet connection was fine. So sounds like a glitch on YouTube's end. I have a couple of announcements here for you. Announcement number one, there will be no live stream on Saturday because Saturday is field day. And I'm going to be at the field day event, which will be taking place, we start around noon on Saturday, try to have everything up by noon, and then try to have everything down by Sunday at noon. It starts at noon our time in Colorado. So, okay, another announcement, I guess I should announce this. My clock kit. Remember, I completely bricked my clock. The clock kit finally arrived from Turkey. It had been over a month. And this is what's in it, not a whole lot. There's a little circuit board, there's a display board, and then there's the all-important firmware on the chip. I tried several different ways to update the firmware on my chip, the one I had, and ended up borking it. So, had to order another one. Now, if you want to, let's see, let's go through the other announcements. The 3 videos are up at your request, people watching this chat request. I got the My Antennas end-fed half-wave 80 through 10, and the 3 videos about that, the unboxing, the erection and testing, and then the on-the-air performance are up now, up in this past week. Oh, and I wanted to ask the question if anyone knows how to use an aviation headset for ham radio, specifically to connect it to the ICOM 7300. I've got a real nice aviation headset. It's Bluetooth. It's the one with the 2 plugs. It's the old style connector. Also interesting to note that the ARRL letter, if you subscribe to that, if you're an ARRL member, you can get the ARRL letter. It's a weekly newsletter, comes free if you're a member. It has a nice story about W5KUB's balloon adventures. On Tuesday evenings, you will often find me on W5KUB's live stream, which is on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time. And he has had this show for a long time. He has gotten into launching balloons that carry amateur radio payloads, a very small payload that is just basically a whisper transmitter that will give location from the GPS and so on. And there's an interesting story about that in there. His balloon is on its 3rd trip around the world, right now somewhere over China or the Koreas. And it's quite an interesting little sub-hobby in and of itself. These are basically like weather balloons. They go up all the way into the stratosphere, and the winds in the stratosphere cause it to circle the Earth. And they get caught up in the jet stream. Something that takes them down sometimes is if you get a large thunderstorm, it'll punch all the way up into the stratosphere with the tops over 40,000 feet, which is about where the balloon is flying. And if the balloon gets into that cloud, it can ice, and which will create too much weight, and the thing will just drop out of the sky. But he's been having a lot of fun with that. I wanted to talk just a little bit about Field Day, which is this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. It's a fascinating event, and I recommend to everyone that you give it a try. You can operate from home. Now, this is mostly done on HF, although you can do it on VHF, although not on repeaters for points. You have to, the exchange is, you contact another person, then you give them your class and your ARRL section. Some states are divided into multiple sections. Other sections are divided into multiple states. But we're in the Colorado section, and our class is 2 stations that are on the air at a time. We have 2 stations, a 40 meter and a 20 meter, running at the same time. And so that makes us 2. And then we're on emergency power away from home. That makes us an alpha station. So we're 2 Alpha Colorado. And we'll be using the club call sign K0IIT. I do plan to go to the club event. They will have restrictions in terms of the number of people allowed in an operating location, so that we won't have the usual gaggle that we have there. But if you want to operate from home and you're using normal power, you can operate class 1 Delta. That means there's one person operating, one transmitter is operating, and you're on mains power, your utility power. Now, if you have emergency power from home, generator, solar, otherwise, then that's the Echo category, and you are 1 Echo. And so you can operate either way. If you are an N3FJP user, there is software for the Field Day contest that makes it very easy to keep track of the log and things like that. One of the changes this year is that 1 Delta stations can contact other 1 Delta stations for credit. The purpose of this operating event, the ARRL calls it, they keep maintaining it's not a contest, though it obviously is. It's to get people used to operating in field situations. So they are making a special dispensation this year, given the pandemic, that 1 Delta stations can contact other 1 Delta stations for credit. So it's really something to look into. You can go to the ARRL website and type in Field Day in the search box, and it'll bring up all the stuff you need to know to operate Field Day. I really recommend this for you because it will be an opportunity to work lots of stations all across the U.S. and Canada, which also participates in this. And there's you'll have a lot of fun with it. I do too. Let's see. Robbie, EI2IP, please recommend an HF multiband vertical. We'll try the AV640. That's Alpha Victor 640. I don't have one, but I've heard good things about it. If you want an HF multiband vertical, that'll cover 40 through 40 through I think 6, maybe just 10. The AV680 covers a little smidgen of 80 meter band, not enough of it to be worth the extra expense. Okay, car makes a nice winch, according to Richard Jumanville, and yes, that's great. Had a headset from an old 172 connected to a set of Drakes. Yeah, I'd kind of like to figure out how to do that. And what did Earthquake Kelly do? Did you pass technician? Okay, great. Congratulations for that, and welcome to ham radio. And we need to get you on the air and get you studying for your general. Okay. Just got all the pieces of clock and GPS, some things to work on. Also, can I use that GPS to feed signal to multiple users? Actually, you can. It's just a TTL feed, and one TTL can drive about 5 different things. So make sure they're all grounded together, because it's all got to be referenced to the same level. And Don says it was approaching North Korea. There are 3 areas of the world that have made it illegal for these high-altitude balloons to transmit over their territory: the UK, Yemen, and North Korea. So it'll go off if it senses it's over North Korea. So, Robbie, thank you very much for your 10 euros for this. EI is in Ireland. Okay. No field day for our club. Did set up a tent in the backyard. Borrowed an inverter generator from work. Hey, good deal. Benjamin, I think you'll enjoy that. Yeah, and Don is also suggesting that you look at the Hustler 6BTV. And then there's the DX Commander, which is very popular. I'm hoping to get a hold of one of those someday so that I can test it. A lot of people like it. First field day, so I'm going to be home without an Elmer. Just going to try and figure it out. That's all you've got to do. Dave, have I received the DX Commander yet? No, I have not. How long does it take to show up in the FCC database? Well, that depends on a number of factors. Normally it's a week or 2. But with the COVID-19 thing, the ARRL staff is working largely from home. So there are some delays. But if it's been 3 or 4 weeks, call the ARRL VEC section in there and see if you can find out what happened. Paperwork can get lost. The way the exam system works, the different voluntary examiners, there's a person designated as the liaison. They pack up all the paperwork and literally overnight it to the league. Okay, so there's a paper flow in the thing, so it does not proceed at electronic speeds. Okay, let's go to some of our questions that we have here today. This first one is from Carl. Carl Webster, Alpha Bravo 1 Zulu India. And he has noticed that I have, this is the GPS receiver for the clock. Now, the clock that I showed you that came from Turkey finally, this is my GPS receiver for it. And it puts out 1 pulse per second along with the 2 of the GPS words, which give the time and location and coordinates and all that sort of thing like that. I don't have a case for it, as you can see. I just leave it hanging here. I think it looks fine, but Carl did not. And so Carl put a case together for this, and he is sending me that case. And that's very kind of you, Carl, and I will be certain to show that on the air. And once I have put that on the air, I will want to know if you are going to make that available to others and for what price, and we can, maybe some others are making the same thing. This is from QRP Labs, and this thing's very, very, very inexpensive. Thing is, you got to wait forever because it comes from Turkey, but some people get it in as little as a few days. I've had a number of things come from them. This is the one that has been delayed the most. It was a month. Now, Mike Carrington asks a question that I don't quite understand. He says, I'd like to see an update of the 8300 to a newer version. I don't know quite what he means. We've got the ICOM 7300 here, and as far as I know, it's current. I've not heard anything that ICOM is coming out with a replacement for it, and I don't know why they would, because they're selling like hotcakes, and you know, the designs in ham radio don't change every year. They'll have a radio run for 10 years or more, and that way the price per unit is down, and so the prices often gradually come down. Does anybody know what an 8300 might be? If you do, say so in the comments, and I will see what we can do with that. Okay, how long does it take to show up in the FCC database? Oh, I think we addressed that a week or 2. Simulpass, there are call signs showing up. Yeah, if you're close to Newington and you can get that stuff there, that's good. Yeah. This is Don DeGidio. Thank you very much. And wow, Don is taking his extra exam on the 29th. So we all wish you luck, Don. And I think you'll really enjoy that. That is the top achievement in amateur radio. Talking about the version of the software in the 7300. They have not changed the software in a while. I think they consider the radio to be mature, and so they're not doing any more. Now this one is from Steve Schroder KI0KY, who is a friend of mine. He is a fellow club member in the Montrose Amateur Radio Club here in Colorado, and he wants to know which file he should download from the HamPi site, the 37 kilobyte or the 4.6 gigabyte. He says he can't tell from the video which one is correct. That's because I did not do a download, because when I prepared the video, the number one, or the version 1.0 hadn't come out yet. It was the day before it came out. I'm pretty sure it's the 4.6 gigabyte version. It's a pretty good sized download. Okay, and let's see. This is from November 4, Whiskey Yankee Echo. And he says he saw my NFED antenna review this afternoon and thought you might like to know about Steve Ellington N4LQ, strong proponent of the NFED half-wave antennas. He has a Facebook page devoted to it with a following of about 11,000 folks. And it's on Facebook. It's a group on Facebook, and it is called NFED half-wave antennas, all mushed together with each word, each individual word being capitalized. I don't know if Facebook is case sensitive. NFED half-wave antennas. And he talks about different things that you can do to get it to cover more of the 80-meter ham band. So I will pass that on to you there. Now this next one is also from Steve Schroder, who lives about 30 or 40 miles north of me up in the Cedar Edge area. He says, how does the my antenna work on 60 meters? I did not test it on 60 meters. I have it up. I suppose I could. He says one of his pet peeves is that articles, videos, etc. do not show data for the 60-meter band. Now, I'll explain Steve's interest in this. He is very, very into ARES, Mars, and what they call OXCOM. I personally think OXCOM is communications between two oxes, like as in oxen for a covered wagon. But it's AUXCOM, OXCOM. And they use the 60-meter band a lot. Steve, the antenna is not designed for 60 meters. I've seen very few antennas that are, because except for its work in emergency services, the 60-meter band just doesn't get much use. There's enough restrictions on it to put it into the too hard category for most people. And this specifically does not work on that. Let's see. Gordo told me it was impolite to ask which questions you miss. One of the VEs did say I had a very good score on my extra. Take a picture with your VE. Now, that's an interesting idea. When I took my extra, I wasn't ready. I had advanced. I was working with the youth group in the Boulder area, the Boulder Amateur Radio Club Junior Division, or BARC Junior. And one of the teenagers that was in there was going to beat me to extra, and I wasn't going to let that happen. So I did a lot of studying for it. Back then, when they still had the advanced license, the advanced was the hard one with all the technical material, and the extra was more about giving tests and VEs and things like that. I took the code test. At the time, it was 20 words a minute, and I passed that, and so I went on to take the written test. And I told them when I handed it to them, do not, repeat, do not tell me what my score was. I don't want to know. I want to die blissfully not knowing what my score was, because I think it was pretty bad. And I do not know to this day what my score was. So, of course, I've made videos about it and so on. You're not, as a VE, you're not supposed to say what questions were missed, but you can give a person a score if they want it. 60 meters on the 8010 is about 8-to-1 SWR if you have an external tuner. Okay. Yeah. I have good news for you. It's Thursday live stream. Well, I hope you do too, Don. Great. What more bandwidth do you get with an extra? You get about double the HF privileges that a general does. If you look at the diagram, and this one I have here is a little out of date. The new one from the league is actually vertical portrait style. But you see the greens, there's, we'll just look right here in this column right here, the greens. The upper one is extra, the one under it is general. So you get more privileges on HF, and it's just nice to be known as an extra, you know. Let's see. Is the Yaesu FT891 a reasonable first HF rig? Is that the 100-watt one? I don't know. I recommend a 100-watt radio for your first HF radio. I have previously advised against QRP radios as a first rig. I have. Get a year or so experience under your belt and then go have fun with QRP. It is fun. You'll find the most fun on QRP is with CW, though. Extras get more space, yes, on several bands. Passing is passing, that's right. Although in the aviation world, I'm very close to being ready to take my sport pilot written test. And you have to get a 70% to pass, but they give you a report that tells you the areas you need more study in. And then you have to go to your instructor, get the additional study, and have the instructor sign off on that. So they don't want you to slip by with things that you don't know. Okay. Tell the testee what he asked, whether score or number of questions. Okay. Yeah, when I've done VE, I've not... a little pride gave you the motivation update, Dave? Yes. Yes. I was teaching he was, not Joel. Was one of the Wilson boys, and his name will come to me in a minute. He was 17. He was one of the 6 people in the country that aced the ACT that year. He aced it. And that is an extremely rare accomplishment. So we're talking about a teenager who is very, very smart. And he had his advanced, and he was going to go for extra. I was actually helping him with the code to get his code up to speed. Yeah, I'll think of his name in a minute. He went on to become a missionary in Thailand for some evangelical Christian church, and seemed to really enjoy that over there. I've been over there for quite a while. Yes, the advanced at the time was the hard test, and the advanced got quite a few of the privileges, and it was a hard test. Now they've had to move all that hardness to the extra test. Doctor who graduates bottom of class still called doctor. That's absolutely true. Okay. Smoking Ape, how are you? 897, great radio. Can you recommend a 500-watt amp? Well, the amp I've got is the Ameritron ALS 500M. There's a number of 600-watt amps that are all transistor. that come with power supplies and everything, and they operate up more around 50 volts. The ALS 500M I have here operates on 12 volts. So it has to have a very hefty power supply, which they make one just for that amplifier. But if you look at a Meritron or MFJ, you can find a bunch. I think Elecraft makes one. There are a lot of other people that make amplifiers out there. Okay, best thing about being extra, if you can tune it, you can transmit on it. That is true, pretty much. Buy a big amp, run it easy. Well, yeah, he probably could have had any career he wanted, and that's what he wanted. So, you know, got it cheap because the ceramic filters were bad, 67 cents a piece from Yaesu. Got to go and haven't turned back. Okay. Let's see. Took my technician and general back to back after studying and taking practice tests. Prior to extra, I only read some of the material, did not study or take tests, but still passed. Well, Kevin, if you did that, you had to know something about electronics, because there are some difficult questions on there that are not at an engineering level, but are kind of approaching it. So, let's see what we got here. Heathkit, Sugar Baker 200 is still a great load. You know, in talking about amplifiers, I should probably talk about tube versus transistor. Transistor, clearly the wave of the future, but they're not all the way here yet. You can purchase legal limit transistor-based amplifiers, all transistors. And that's very nice. Elecraft makes one, MFJ makes one. Or if it isn't MFJ, it's a Meritron. It's the same company. But the problem is they're a lot more expensive than the equivalent tube amplifier. The technology behind the high-power transistors is still progressing. It's not mature yet. So you've got to do all kinds of things with these transistor amps to protect them. Because with a tube amp, you've got a lot of latitude about tuning it into an output. They use a pi network on the thing, which has think of a pi network as a very wide range tuner. Okay, but a transistor amp is 50 ohms, and that's it, 50 ohms. It's got to see 50 ohms. So you end up maybe having to put a high power tuner after the amp so that it only sees 50 ohms, because boy, they'll protect that transistor in there. They'll shut the signal down going into it if it's not seeing the right load, because if it doesn't see the right load, it reacts very poorly to having any kind of reflected wave. So, okay, there's nothing wrong with the tube amps. Make sure that you get them with tubes that you can get replacements for. iMac, which used to make the really good tubes, has gotten out of the business of making small RF tubes. Small to them is big to us, okay? They'll make broadcast tubes for 50,000 watts or something like that, but it's getting a little hard to find the iMacs. EIMAC. So look around before getting a tube amp. Ask around before going into one of those. This one is from Patric Tackett KM6GYI. He has a Crushcraft R9 vertical. He's having terrible problems with high SWR, especially on 40 and 80. Now remember, on 80, it only tunes about a 25 or 30 kilohertz chunk of the band, which you set when you set up the antenna. He's got here frequency, reactance, SWR, digital SWR, analog resistance, analog. Okay, now on these antennas like the R9, there'll be DC shorts because it's an end-fed half wave. Okay, a loaded end-fed half wave. And so you're going to have a big ballon down at the bottom of the thing. And that ballon, the way it's wound, is going to look like a DC short. so that your DC measurements don't really mean anything. You've got to measure it at the frequencies that you are interested at. Now, if you have just put this up and are having trouble tuning it, the first thing you have to look at is, did you install it correctly? The R9, like so many vertical antennas today, comes as a kit. There are like 150 pieces or more, literally 150 pieces or more, and no two of those is attached together. You have to do all of the assembly yourself. So you want to go through and audit that. Get a friend to help you with this. Audit that antenna was put together properly. Second, the first rule of antennas is everything affects everything. So the site where you put it, the R9 wants to have the base about 10 feet off the ground. It doesn't like to be mounted right on the ground. So you're going to have some kind of a little mast and some kind of guying there so to keep that antenna up. Or you can mount it on a rooftop or something like that. But everything affects everything. Again, if this is the first installation, look at your coax cable. One way you can do that if you have a dummy load is leave the coax where it is, unscrew it from the antenna, screw it into the dummy load, and then go back in the shack and see what kind of SWR you get. You should get 1-to-1. Okay, if you don't, there's a problem in the coax. So I would think that you would want to, you should contact somebody in your local club, talk to them, see if somebody can come out and take a look at your installation. It's always nice to have more eyeballs look at the problem. But given that everything affects everything in antennas, it's very possible that if you put one little Framistan on wrong, it can affect everything on those antennas. This one is from Erik KE7UYC. And he asked the question, what is a nano VNA and do I need one? The answer is it looks like this. And no, you don't need one. Now, Tom Frericks spent a fair amount of time with me one day showing me how to use this and how to set it up as an antenna analyzer. Okay, and I got the necessary little attachment so I could plug an antenna into it. That's an SO239 right there. Okay, it was a lot of work to get it set up to do that. And then it's all set up now so that I can use it as an antenna analyzer, but you still get stuck with things like this. You've got a certain rather tricky sequence of steps that you have to go through to get the thing to act properly as an antenna tuner. The attractive thing about these is the price. They are priced less than $100. So if you want to take the time to learn it, and I'll try and put that in my video, I've got to put that video together, then you can use this as an antenna analyzer. It also has a second port on here, so you can use this thing to look at like a trap for an antenna, and you can characterize it. Basically what a vector network analyzer does is it characterizes networks. In other words, electronic circuits. It characterizes them over a wide frequency range. It has to be calibrated. You got to calibrate it. This is not going to be part of the reference station because it's cheap. It's cheap, but it is just too doggone complicated to use for a new ham. It's an engineering level tool, and if you've got that level of smarts, by all means, go ahead. Okay, let's see. Oh, I've got more. What's this? More. The last comment I got was about the Heathkit SB. Oh, there we go. Okay. It uses spark plugs. The small tubes Dave mentioned, 23500Zs, yeah. Really nice Sugar Baker 220. It's my everyday amp. Jim, those are great amps. They're classics. One of the nice things about it is you know exactly how to use it and how to avoid mistreating it. With the transistor amps, the newer ones, if you try to mistreat it, it will stop you. With the tube amps, if you try to mistreat it, it won't stop you. And you can actually make tubes go bad. And I'm not talking about just burning out the filaments. I'm talking about making them be useless as amplifier tubes. They get too hot, the chemical nature of the cathode changes, things like that. So, and the Smokin' Ape loves the Nano VNA, so I would think that Smokin' Ape's probably got a video or two on how to use the Nano VNA. Okay, a lot of things in ham radio that you don't need, but doesn't mean you still can't buy it. Well, yeah, okay, that's true. It took me probably 25 years as a ham before I got my own antenna analyzer, and I got the MFJ 259B. I've been very happy with that. Now, I have other antenna analyzers. I've got the German FAVA5. I've got the Rig Expert, which is very nice. It's very photogenic for YouTube videos. And but the MFJ 17754 antenna, which is a 4020 trap dipole, I found the problem with it using the 259B, because the actual dip was outside the ham band, and I have the Rig Expert antenna analyzer set up to just look in the ham bands. The Nano VNA, you would have had the same problem had you just been looking in ham bands, but it would have found the same problem. So, one of the problems with these complicated pieces of test equipment like the Nano VNA is it is a beautiful piece of test equipment with absolutely lousy human factors in the design of the software and everything like that. But one of the advantages of it is you can test more than just SWR. Daniel, use the software Nano VNA Saver. Thank you, Daniel, for the tip. I'll have to take a look at that. Let's see. Yeah, good. Okay, and Alan's talking about how he passed his 20 words per minute, and which you don't need it today. Just make sure you use it with a PC or Linux screen. Let's see, 95% from Far West Missouri. Hello. A600, the Nano VNA is too dang small. It is small. You could have a magnifying glass. Okay. The PC, the laptop dedicated to it. Wow. Okay. Very good. So that's the Nano VNA. This one is from Frank KN4LE. I really need some guidance or recommendations on buying an SWR meter. Well, we've just been talking about that. Primary use, tune ham radio antennas, but it would be great to have one good enough to tune hotspot and cellular antennas as well. Well, you just went from the couple $100 to the couple $1,000 category with that. For cellular antennas, you need a vector network analyzer. Now, hotspot antenna is a UHF antenna. This will go up to, I think, 500 megahertz, or it might go higher than that. The FAVA5 will go up to 500 megahertz. Some of the MFJs will, but not all of them. And I don't trust the data I get from them anyway. Here is a hotspot, okay? This is a quarter wave antenna on UHF on 70 centimeters. Okay, now the problem is, look at the cable length on that. That's more than a quarter wave. Okay, so that cable will act as an impedance transformer. And so what I read here will not be what this is. So you have to do funny games with how you calibrate these things and so on to get them to be right. Okay, let's see. Said my nanovna is super amazing and cheap. Yes. From London. Hi, Ray. Okay. Yeah, human factors, folks. Oh, please. If you're a software engineer and you're going to design a piece of software for users to use, please understand, and I don't mean any offense by this per se, but if you're a software engineer, you have no clue what the average human being goes through every day. So go get a human factors engineer and look at the thing from the user's point of view. Okay, and the people who did the nano VNA did not do that. They did not do that. And so you've really got to kind of understand some of the things underlying what's going on to really use it. Have you had any time to play around with the HamPi yet? I have not. The new nano VNAs go up to 1.2 gigahertz. That's great. It's designed by Dilbert's pointy-haired boss. Well, he doesn't understand anything. Okay, very accurate there. Did you have to hook up an RF choke to your end fed? No, I didn't. I just put it up exactly as it said to. Now, one thing I did do, if I were setting that up as a primary antenna on the end-fed half-wave, I wouldn't use a 50-foot long piece of coax. But that is the piece of coax I've got attached out there that I use between the various antennas that I'm testing. I use that 50-foot piece of coax. And I used it with the end-fed half-wave. No trouble. No trouble. It worked fine. Third floor antenna guidance selection. Oh my. Take a look at the MFJ. They have an apartment antenna. If you have a balcony, you can attach. It's a ham stick that you can use in your balcony. You can do mag mount antennas, magnetic loop antennas. MFJ makes some, several people make them. And as long as you put them up close to the window, as long as the window doesn't have, and a lot of windows do, they're darkened to keep the heat out, and that layer that darkens them can be aluminum or some metal. So that makes it a little harder to get out of there. Can you give us your views on mag loops for small spaces, specifically the alpha loop? They're fine. They work. They're finicky to tune. Very finicky to tune, but they work. I've got a couple of them sitting around here. I've got the Chameleon P loop. I've got the MFJ loop, which happens to be up on the roof right now. And let's see, someone who's done software resent your statement. Everyone should be able to remember Control-Alt-Escape-B. Yeah, Control-Alt-Delete was put together by an IBM engineer when they were building the original PCs as a sequence for a soft reboot that they were using during testing that no one would hit accidentally. And then, of course, word got out about it. So, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it was sort of adopted by them. Hi, Sean. Sean is the one who's been giving me my ground school. Neither did the guys that came up with DMR. Oh, man. You know, everybody says, well, DMR is an independent specification. It is. But I think Motorola must have either written it or had a major input to it. Motorola wants to market its radios to every public service agency on Earth. And there are only so many public service frequencies. And so they came up with a whole bunch of things it could do that are great if you're a fireman, that hams just don't need. And so they're there. We got to deal with them. You got to set them. Like color code and so on. Or stun, kill. If somebody is screwing around with the radio, you can actually send a command to it to turn it off. It's crazy. All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to try the VNA, Nano VNA with the software. I've got the cable, just haven't tried it yet. Let's see, my antenna is end-fed half-wave choke. Has a choke built in. Well, the balun kind of acts as a choke, but they use the shield as a way to get return currents down to the ground rod. And they say if you don't have a nearby ground, just use the coax shield, which is what I'm doing. Earthquake Kelly's in an apartment too, yeah. Okay. Ham Radio Guy loves the content. Thank you. HF, LX loops are okay. Yeah, they are. They're very high Q. After watching, I'm thinking about tucking an end fit under my eaves. Well, the nearby gutters cause me a problem. Yeah, see if you can get it a foot or two away. I've got a friend who lives in a homeowners association area, and he has some small little wood sticks, about 8 inches long, and they hold a nearly invisible wire all the way around his house. They're held out from the gutter, and he uses that for 80 every day. How deep should the tower grounding wires be buried? 8 feet's fine. 8-foot ground rod is fine. You should usually put 3 of them out there, 1 for each tower leg. 3 8-foot rods driven in, connecting wires, but I want to ensure that they're deep enough. They're fine. Built a 10-meter ground plane in the corner of an unused bedroom. That works. Okay. Have you ever tried a terminated end-fed antenna? What the resistor is for is with the resistor, it's directional. Without the resistor, it's bidirectional. So you're taking all the power that would go the other way and terminating that in the resistor. Rhombics are the same. First HF base narrowed it down to the 7300 and the Kenwood TS590. Not concerned about the price. Get the i7300 if for no other reason than that's what I have. It's the reference station radio, and when I make videos about HF, I use the 7300. So they're both nice radios. The 7300 is fully software defined. Exceptionally quiet for receive. Let's see. How much power can you put out for SSB and still be QRP? 5 watts. The old IBM mainframes 360 had secret beam codes. Hold down IBM followed by a number. Haha! I didn't know that, and I used to work for IBM. How does the ground soil affect dipoles or ground radial systems? Quite a bit. Do radial systems have to be perfectly symmetric? No, not at all. Not at all. You don't have to. Do what you can. Now, if you have a radial field that's mostly on one side of an antenna, the antenna is going to tend to be slightly directional in that direction. Tend to, not fully. Okay. I used a terminated inverted U and see, just got the ICOM 7300 Earthquake Kelly. It's a nice radio. Anybody know of an HF radio that I can control via my computer that doesn't cost as much as an IC7300? Well, if you get the little MFJ thingy, it's MFJ1234 is the model number. They call it a RigPi. Now, the problem is you're going to spend a couple $100 on that. Why not just spend the extra couple $100 and get the ICOM 7300, which is running, what, about $800? Somewhere between $800 and $900 these days. You might also want to check out the FTDX 3000. I have one. That's what I took out of the station, reluctantly, and put the 7300 in its place. The FTDX 300 I would rate as a mid-level capable radio. It is an outstanding radio. I really like it. The only reason I took it out was because I wanted to create a reference station to have so I can make videos around the reference station. And the FTDX 101MP should be here. That's a super nice radio. It's like stepping into the cockpit of a 747. Window films and antenna interference, 3 types of film after. Okay. Control my 450D from my computer. Yeah, there's not going to be any waterfall on that unless you add like the SDR Play radio, which would be another $100. Low emissivity coatings, 2 types. Okay. One's metal spatter applied, the other's different. Okay, so just something to take a look at. Let's see, so we beat that one to death. This is from Cristian Escudero, Charlie Alpha 3, Juliet Bravo Romeo. He's from Chile. And he wants me to get the XIEGU G90, which I don't have. And he says they're getting more used around the globe as a fair to good small unit to begin the ham radio journey. What a lot of American hams don't know is that in a lot of the world, the introductory level license for ham radio only allows you about 20 watts on HF. There's hundreds of thousands of Japanese in that category, which is one reason why they're building the 705 and things like that, that are limited to 20 watts or 10 watts. So I'll ask you, if you think I should use channel funds to go to MFJ and buy a XIEGU G90, let me know. Say yes or no. And if lots of you say yes, I'll take channel funds and go buy one, and we'll do some videos on that radio. I've heard good things about it. Let's see, kind of National Fenestration Rating Council. Fenestration. Oh, I haven't seen that word in a long time. It has to do with Windows. Anything having to do with Windows. Not Microsoft Windows. Windows, the old-fashioned things that you look through. Yeah, the 101MP is their top-of-the-line radio. I control my micro BITX version 6 from the PC as it can emulate the FT817 via cat control. I did not know that. I was looking at that radio, but dang, the waterfall's kind of a deal breaker. Yeah, let's see. Control, okay. G90 is great for $4.99. It's in my grow bag. Okay. Yeah, for hackers. So is the Micro BITX. Okay, so let's see. The next one is from Ray K2RCQ. He says, I hear so much about the ICOM 7300. Can it transmit on 2 meters and 70 centimeters? No, it does not. Their marketing plans where they market a radio that looks identical, but that covers 2 meters, 70 centimeters, and 1.2 gigahertz. Just 3 bands. Not 220. Just those 3 bands. And you pay more for it than you pay for the ICOM 7300. Now, the direct Yaesu competitor to the 7300 is the FT991A, which is not as sophisticated a radio, but does everything that you would want, including the waterfall. But it does have 2 meters and 70 centimeters on it. All modes, including FM. Okay, so pays your money and take your choice. Okay, this is from W4 Bravo Alpha Echo. Watched many of the videos, relatively new ham. Is looking to pass as extra on field day. Thanking me for the equipment. Let's see. Oh, interference on repeaters. SDR, hack RF with a portapack. Signal seems to be vertically polarized and not been able to get a direction on it with the Yagi. Seems to come from everywhere. go on my website at dcasler.com, D-C-A-S-L-E-R, that's one S and no T, dcasler.com. And then on the website in the right-hand column up at the top, there's a little search bar. Search in there for Fox Finder. Fox as in the little animal, fox and hounds, Fox Finder. And it will take you to a little circuit you can make for a few bucks. And it's a time difference of arrival type detector. So it doesn't matter how strong the signal is, you can always home in on it. That is what I would suggest to you trying to find the thing. It's a lot of trouble sometimes finding interference on 2 meters. Okay, so everybody's saying yes on the XIEGU, 20 watts. Captain Scarlett, I appreciate your input. Let's see. I'm going to buy the XIEGU G1M. Didn't know about that one. Do you have a reference station list? I do. Go to dcasler.com, D-C-A-S-L-E-R.com / and then the word reference. And that will take you straight to the list of the stuff in the reference. Now, I did have my assistant go in and try and find the videos on each of those and put those links in there with that. So, probably going to buy the G1M. Get the G90, doesn't cover 6. Jonah G90, happy with it. What UHF-VH radio would you recommend for first radio? Just got my license 2 months and upgraded to extra. Okay, well, if you're talking for HF radio, I would recommend the ICOM 7300. Why? Because it's the reference station one, and that's the one that's there. If you're looking for a VHF radio, I have this one for review. It's from Radioddity. It's the GS5B. The Chinese radios are getting a little more expensive. This is a $100 radio, and it's FM only. One radio that I kind of particularly like is the Radioddity GD77. I think it's 77. I don't think it's the 73. I think it's 77. It's a nice little radio. Anthony Hoffman, thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Let's see. I never had a chance to get a radio before everything closing up. Yeah, take a look at that reference station list. Just to be different on the XIEGU. Okay. Not to get the extra filters. Was told by several owners I did not need them. You probably won't. Get across the whole U.S. on 16 watts. I've gotten across the U.S. on 3 watts. Back when I was young and first to ham and had an HW7. And we took it camping, and I got from California, Mount Gleason, to New Jersey. So that's across the U.S. On 3 watts. It was amazed. 3 watts is less than you'd have in a flashlight, and it got all the way across over there. It's absolutely amazing. Okay, we're getting close to time, aren't we? This is from Paul, who just passed his tech. He doesn't have his call sign yet. He missed one question, and it was one of those wording things. Said he was grateful he passed his tech. He's going to go study for his general now. Rick Sullivan KE5TUG. Just watched an overview of the ICOM 7300. I have a XIEGU G90 as my first HF radio, and he wishes I would do videos on it. So that's another vote for it. From Fred Jacobs KC2PK. Dave, really do like your videos. Very helpful. I've been away from amateur radio for about 20 years. Recently got a ZS6 BKW antenna with 41-foot ladder line. If I can't get the top over 41 feet, is it okay to leave the excess on the ground where it attaches to the coax? I would recommend against it. I would pull that ladder line horizontally so that it goes up to the antenna at an angle. Don't pull it in the direction of the antenna. Pull it away from the antenna and keep it off the ground. It doesn't need to be off the ground a lot, and it can kind of droop like that. But get it up off the ground 2 or 3 feet for that. Let's see, hot water 7, oh yes. Yeah, oh man, it was a direct conversion rig and had suffered terrible microphonics. I ran an FT7 in my Toyota pickup, CW Mobile. Give you your score, but not tell you which question you missed. Yeah, we're not supposed to tell you which question you missed. He was guessing, by the way, which one it was. Bought an ICOM 2730 and Comet GP3, new license KD2TYW. Welcome to Ham Radio. And this is from Video Rick, $20 for the channel fund pile. Studying for my general, been my virtual Elmer. Thank you for all your videos and help, especially during this stay-at-home time. Thank you. This is from Phil, Isard WF3W. Says, you're the ham man. Actually, I go by Augie, but I'm just afraid ham man is some other YouTuber. I don't know. I need to see your video on assembling MFJ's hex beam. Where is it under what title? It's you can go to YouTube, to my channel at youtube.com/DaveCassler and look up hex beam, or you can go to dcassler.com/previous. And that is the list of all the S-Day videos. And you can, now what I would recommend doing on that is searching using Control F, using the browser search feature, and then put in hex. Just put in hex, and it'll show up in somewhere in there, and you'll have it. Because I do have a video on doing that. So, all right. Now, I've got to keep track of which ones I did answer and which ones I didn't. Because it is time. We're out of time. Thank you so much. I love these sessions. I love all of you Augies. You are great people. You really support the channel, and you got really interesting questions. And as a result of what you asked me to do, I learn about ham radio. And I really, really appreciate that. So again, no live stream on Saturday because it's field day. And I'll try and take some pictures of field day and do some sort of a little video or something like that about that. So thank you all so much. And I'm going to say, new exam videos for 7/1/2020. I don't have the book yet. The ARRL is saying because of COVID-19 they can't ship all the books. I don't have the book. When I get the book, I can do the updates. I'm getting a little concerned because people are starting to do the new tests. No books. So anyway, if worse comes to worse, you can always go to Gordon West and get his books. So I'm going to say 73. Thank you very much. I've had a wonderful time this evening. I hope you have too. Take care.